I'll be speaking with Praisely McNamara. She's the Community Organizing Liaison for Connecticut 5051 movement. She's a medical device sales representative in New England. Good morning. How are you?
Morning, Stanley. I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about these big demonstrations being planned for Saturday, Saturday, April 5th, all over the country.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a big day. It's an exciting day. So, as of this morning, 400,000 individual people have registered through the handsoff2025.com website in all 50 states at over 600 events. So, that's the scope of what we're talking about at this time for
Yeah, that's
Saturday.
huge, 400,000.
Yeah.
What about Connecticut specifically? What's going to happen?
So, I mean, here's and in the past couple of months, and I know we're going to talk a little bit later about how many events, Connecticut 5051 has been a part of, et cetera. We'll get to that. I've found in my couple of months doing this, actively, about 50% of people actually register. And then either it's bring a friend or it's a married couple or a boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever, whatever partnership may exist, or they're bringing friends and just one person registers. What we're anticipating is probably double our largest to date crowd, which was about 1,300 on I think it was the one on March 4th. It was March 4th for democracy. We had 1,200 people. So we're expecting at least double that. As an example, I have over 400 people registered on Meetup, and that sounds like, well, that's not 400,000, and that's certainly not 1,200. But the most we've ever had registered on Meetup was 80, and we got 700 people.
Mm.
So we're hoping for thousands of people on Saturday on the south lawn of the Capitol, the frontage of Capitol Ave, across from the State Library.
Okay, so they're looking right. They'll be right looking at Capitol Avenue, and so
Correct.
there'll be speakers. Will there be entertainment? What kind of things will happen?
Oh, great question. So the event is from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, April 5th, is the planned time at this time. We have four confirmed speakers, hoping for a couple more, and I can name them shortly. There will be a PA system, so it'll be wherever you are in the area of the Capitol. If you have to overflow across the street onto the library stairs or steps or something, you'll be able to hear all that. We have Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysiewicz speaking. We have Attorney General William Tong speaking. We have the state representative for Connecticut 5051 speaking. She's the woman that recruited me. You had asked a little down the ways of your questions, do you want to give people's names, etc. I haven't had a chance to run that by everyone yet, so I'm not going to do that at this time. I'm sure she'll introduce herself on Saturday, but so she'll be speaking. The Connecticut ACLU Communications Director, B. Ray Perryman, will be speaking, who's now a partner of the Connecticut 5051 movement, which we're thrilled about. So we have the Connecticut American Civil Liberties Union. There might be some other state representatives. We're reaching out to Representative Larson. We're not sure if folks like that are going to be able to make it, but definitely Lieutenant Governor Bysiewicz, definitely Attorney General Tong, B. Ray Perryman from the CTACLU, and our state rep from Connecticut 5051 will be giving remarks.
And outside of Hartford, I understand there's other rallies. Maybe they're not official, but what do you know about those rallies?
It's correct. They are official. So the whole thing about the 5051 movement, which is sort of the sister parent movement of Hands Off 2025, which is this specific event on Saturday, the whole thing about it is it's decentralized. So anyone can lead a group as long as they're following the tenets and obviously the requirements of nonviolent, respectful, peaceful protest, as long as they're following the requirements of 5051. So I can tell you right off the top of my head, at 11 a.m., remember Hartford is 3 p.m., at 11 a.m., there's a Middletown chapter that isn't necessarily 50-51, but they're doing a hands-off march. So from 11 to noon, you could go to Middletown. The corners of Maine and Washington is where it starts. You could, if you're down on the shoreline or in Fairfield County, there's also an event in Stamford, which will have the CCAG present, which is the Connecticut Citizens Action Group, another great state agent, or not agency, but activism group. So Stamford, I believe, starts at noon as well. These three, Hartford, Middletown, and Stamford, are all like on the handsoff2025.com website. There may be more, but those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head.
Let me ask you about the name, 50-51, because a lot of times other people say 50-51. What does the name mean?
So again, I found this, well, not again, but to just let you know, I found this on Reddit, like in a trending, just like hashtag on Reddit and Instagram back in January. We may get to that in a moment as well. And I'm like, 50501, this protest coming up in February. It's supposed to represent 50 protests in 50 states all on one day. So the goal initially was every state capital would have a protest on the same day to reject Project 2025. And that's why it was selected 2525. That was the first 50501 event, but 50 states, 50 protests, one day.
You bring up Project 2025. What's that?
What is that? So Project 2025 is an almost 1,000-page manifesto that was developed by the Heritage Foundation prior to the 2024 election as a playbook for what a conservative, I'm going to be careful about the language I use here, what a conservative win in the White House, the Congress, and the Supreme Court would look like. So this was a plan that would be implemented to change social, financial / economic and judicial, congressional, and executive branch structure under conservative leadership, specifically the leadership of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who were part architects, at least J.D. Vance was, of Project 2025. It's called the Mandate for Leadership under a conservative federal government.
And an extreme program that repudiated even the conservative policies of George W. Bush and his people.
Correct. Yes, it's, and I don't know how, how loose you want me to kind of shoot here with my commentary and my language, but when we're constantly hearing on the mainstream media and from the administration, radical left, et cetera. What's actually radical would be to undo social safety net programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. What's actually radical is to reduce taxes on the ultra wealthy. In 1975, the taxes on the ultra wealthy were close to 65%. So what's actually radical is undoing everything we've done to make social progress, right? Fairness for everyone, justice and liberty for all. So if you ask me, Project 2025 is a radical movement as opposed to, hey, let's protect our democracy.
So tell us a bit about some of the demonstrations in Connecticut or even elsewhere that have already taken place under the banner of 50-51.
Great. So I'm going to I wrote them down because I didn't want to miss any. And these are in your email, but so it started with that Reject Project 2025 date of 2/5/25, which then, 2 weeks later, it was President's Day. So 50-51 renamed that to No King's Day. And there was a protest rally demonstration again at the Capitol on that South Lawn frontage. That was the 17th. There was March 4th for Democracy. Obviously on March 4th, that was our biggest turnout to date. Attorney General Tong came and gave impromptu remarks. It was wonderful. Veterans United for Democracy was the 28th of March in Hartford. Then so as 50-51 Connecticut, we've established county reps, right? Organizers by county. So, for example, we had a protest, a demonstration, a gathering of people who also are like-minded that we want to uphold democracy and not shift to authoritarianism. At Two Wrestling Cats coffee shop in East Haddam, we participated in the Tesla takeover in Milford, the Build the Resistance movement out in Dayville, International Women's Day in West Hartford, and many more. This is all since February 5th.
So, from what I understand, the rallies have been ultra democratic with virtually any kind of slogan or sign being accepted. But what are the basic demands or core themes of the 50-51 movement?
Another great question. So the mission of 50-51 is to uphold the Constitution, limit executive overreach, and protect democracy. And we've had this discussion with outside and inside, various sort of persons or forces saying, don't you want to get more specific, or don't you want to be, more like, what about, for example, just the conflict between Gaza and Israel, Palestine, and all that? Or what about, specific to trans rights, or specific to, we're inclusive in that under the Constitution, right? Your right to peaceful assembly, you are welcome to bring any signage, any flag that you believe supports these three tenets, right? Upholding the Constitution, limiting executive overreach, and protecting democracy. As long as you are nonviolent, peaceful, and respectful, we welcome all creeds, colors, races, belief systems, religions, sexual orientation, etc. But those are the three main tenets.
Will there be like a giant banner with the three basic tenets, or are you preparing? Sometimes when you go to a demonstration, you'll see 200 signs laying on the ground for people to pick up.
Great question. So if you're going to join us on Saturday or at any of the events down the road, I personally, as the community organizing, liaison or person, I always make a ton of extra signage. It may be a little more flowery or colorful than just uphold the Constitution, limit executive overreach, and protect democracy, but you're welcome to come grab one. That's a great point that we should have a banner. At this time, we don't, but that's a great recommendation.
Now, you mentioned it a little, but could you tell a bit more about how you personally got involved in the effort?
Sure. So back in November, when we saw the outcome of the election, I made a list of things that I needed to accomplish for me personally, right? I told you I'm a single mom, I have a dog, So I got my son's passport, blah, 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 down the line, did a few other things. After Inauguration Day and the myriad overflow, flood the zone of executive orders, I was feeling, quite frankly, like on the verge of panic attacks almost every day for over a week. I'm wringing my hands. I'm like, how are we gonna, it's out of control. Just my own personal feelings about what was going on from day one. By January 30th, I couldn't take it. So I'm reaching out to family. I have a sister, blah, 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 whatever. And she goes, why don't you start a meetup group? Because I had heard about 50-51 on 2/5/25 to reject Project 2025. I'm like, what's a meetup group? It's just an app you can download, and you create an event in a location, like Central Connecticut or Connecticut, whatever, and people can just come to the event. So it's not a discussion board. It's not a movement board, necessarily like website. It's just an app where people open up their app and go, I'm in Hartford. What's going on around me? And they can see an event and they can choose to go. I started a meetup group. I'm getting to the point. On January 30th for 2/5/25, so 6 days, I got 80 people to come with me to the Capitol, which is not, a lot of people in the grand scheme of things, but I was thrilled when 6 other folks said they were going to come. I'm like, oh, thank God I won't be alone standing there with a sign, So 80, but we ended up with 700, not just from my meetup group, but from other, Reddit, Facebook, other places. So now I have 2, technically 3 meetup groups. Long story. There's like 600 people in my meetup groups. After the 2/5/25, event, and I would consider that successful, the state rep of Connecticut 50-51, who you'll hear about, on Saturday, reached out to me through Meetup and said, would you join us and do what you're doing for Meetup with 5051. So I've now been reaching out to CTACLU, CCAG, opening up other meetup groups, adding other events to try and bring people together multiple times and keep this rolling. We can't do a one and done. We got to keep it rolling. So that's how I got involved. That's a long story. I know.
No, that's fine. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I understand, as you mentioned, a number of Democratic Party politicians are going to be speaking in Hartford rally. Now, is that a risk given that many are angry that for 4 years the Democratic Party was in control of things basically and seemed so timid and unproductive, and that this led to the Trump wave? Is there risks here?
So another great question, and I did put something in writing that I'll read, but then I can add color to that if you'd like. So and I got to speak to our mission at 5051, right? Which I've mentioned a couple times now, to uphold democracy, protect the Constitution, and limit executive overreach. Despite the fecklessness that we've seen from the Democrats right now, it's the movement's belief that we're better off pushing those folks who are already in power, right? So state reps, state senators, reps and senators. It'd be better to push them harder to represent our actual interests, which they're now just seeing for the first time with regard to this administration, right? They're seeing it en masse. They need to respond accordingly. We don't this is a critical juncture. It's better and easier to push these folks to fight for our actual interests than to dismantle one of the two parties in our two-party system, right? So all respect to Bernie, all respect to AOC and what they're doing sort of on the Democratic Socialist side of things. Senators like Chris Murphy, reps like John Larson, they're loud and proud and quite vitriolic, quite frankly, and critical of what's going on in a no mince words way, which I think we can capitalize on despite being extremely frustrated with where we're at with the Democrats.
Thanks for that. So in concluding, is there, I know there's got to be website or Instagram account. If you could name them, and then we'll use lettering to put it on the screen.
Sure.
So to find more information.
Great. On Discord, which folks will know. So Discord, Facebook, and TikTok, it's CT50501. So CT5051 on those three platforms, Discord, Facebook, and TikTok. And then our meetup group is called Connecticut for Democracy 2025. So all spelled out. Connecticut for Democracy 2025. And there you'll see all types of events listed, connecting to, some of them are just online. Some of them are boycotts, right? So we had the economic blackout on so it would put something in your calendar to remind you. For example, May Day, May 1st, is put your money where your morals are. So we're at April 3rd, but I've had it announced on the meetup since the middle of March. We want people to change banks. We want people to move away from your TD banks and your Bank of Americas. Put your money where your morals are. Open a checking and savings account with a local credit union. Take the economic power away from the oligarchs and the billionaires that are trying to take away our rights. They can't do it without the money that they're using to buy the government, right? So.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we got the basics, and I thank you so much for speaking with me.
Can't thank you enough, Stanley, for the opportunity. Really appreciate it, and your audience. Thank you.